bitch!
Get ready for a surprise!
Guys, welcome to a classic film review of 1990s action movie Total Recall, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sharon Stone and Michael Ironside. Now, this was directed by Paul Verhoeven, and it's the hyper-violent tale of a construction worker in the near future who suffers a recurring dream of a life on Mars. Now, this dream apparently turns out to be based on reality, and it's not long before he's on the red planet itself, uncovering his past and battling to save civilization. Now, this was Arnie reaching the peak of his powers only a year away from Terminator 2, and Verhoeven following up RoboCop with some more gooey, blood-splattered science fiction. Now, Total Recall feels like an ahead-of-its-time hybrid of films like Vanilla Sky, Inception and The Matrix. Actually very ahead, seeing as it's based on a short story from the 1960s. Let's take a look. So 1990s Total Recall sees Schwarzenegger's Douglas Quaid buying a virtual vacation at Recall Incorporated, a futuristic travel agent that sells implanted memories of wherever you want, and also sells added extras so you can go and be a rock star or a secret agent, etc. Now, things go south when the memory implantation goes wrong, and it triggers formerly suppressed memories that end up bursting forth.
Get off you! You blew my cover!
You can't do a simple goddamn double implant.
It's not my fault we hit a memory cap.
I'll be here any minute. They killed you
What the hell
all!
is he talking about?
Now, I'll try my best not to go into too many spoilers for the plot here for people who've yet to see the movie, but suffice to say our protagonist isn't who he thinks he is.
He's just acting out the secret agent portion of his ego trip.
I'm afraid that's not possible.
Why not?
Because we haven't implanted it yet.
And neither, in fact, is his wife, played here by a pre-Basic Instinct Sharon Stone. Soon he's on the run from enemy agents and must actually travel to Mars to become embroiled in a battle against evil Mars boss Cohagen, played by Ronnie Cox, and his henchman Richter, played by Michael Ironside, where a handful of twists and turns involving mind wipes, mutants, and an ancient alien technology will determine the fate of the planet. Now, it's all splendid stuff. One of my favourite things about Total Recall is its future world building. Before we get to Mars, we see a society that's all brutalist architecture and horrifically designed cars, but is advanced enough to implant virtual memories and have colonies on Mars. And shout out to the big clunky tracking technology that reminds me of the ones that they used in Cliffhanger a couple of years later. And even bigger shout out to the moment that Arnie has to evade the tracker by removing the implant from his skull. Now, I'm not 100% sure what year this is all supposed to be taking place in. If it does mention it in the movie, then I've missed it. Obviously, it's futuristic enough to feature travel within our solar system and a mining for a mineral called turbinium. I think that's what it's called. And Mars here is well realised with a novel concept that generations of poisonous air have bred a small society of mutants, some with telepathic powers, which is what much of the plot hinges on, and there's some excellent makeup effects on show.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here, Hauser.
Look who's talking.
Hey, Tony, give the big guy a break.
Now, it did, however, always bother me that this was a Martian city surrounded by a glass dome that's populated by all these soldiers carrying guns that could do, and in fact do, rupture the dome. So Total Recall sort of plays with the concept of reality and memory and teases the idea that the majority of the plot here could in fact just be Arnie's implanted memory, or is it still really that the procedure reactivated the part of his mind that the villains had rewritten? It's the most intriguing part of the movie and the most underutilised, to be fair, save for the odd scene.
Let's say you're telling the truth and this is all a dream. Then I could pull this trigger and it won't matter.
Doug, don't.
It won't make the slightest difference to me, Doug. But the consequences to you would be devastating.
Now, in a way, Arnie's probably miscast here, if you're really honest. As an action hero, of course, he has the size and the presence, but he doesn't make the most stereotypical of regular Joe construction workers, and neither does he have the acting chops to pull off some of the mind-crushing confusion that his character must be suffering with. Accidentally discovering the life he thinks he's been leading is actually just a memory implant.
Your whole life is just a dream.
Okay then, if I'm not me, who the hell am I?
Beats me.
But to also be honest, the script doesn't need him to, because Paul Verhoeven and his writers retool Philip K. Dick's novelette to suit Arnie's star power. So, of course, he has a plethora of one-liners and many opportunities to kick the life out of groups of bad guys. Now, this was Schwarzenegger's late 80s, early 90s heyday, and he was pretty much unstoppable up until 1997's Batman and Robin. Now, cinema itself was about to change here with the 1-2 knockout punches of Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, but here we have old school miniature and matte painting visual effects, those fused with Rob Bottin and his crew's Oscar-winning practical puppetry, whether it's Quaid emerging from an animatronic disguise as he attempts to infiltrate Martian border control, or some of the many mutant effects work on show. For the most part, it's all aged far better than many recent CGI stuffed blockbusters. Now, as he does in many of his movies, the director here, Paul Verhoeven, does not shy away from some comedy, albeit dark comedy and satire. So we have things like the just this side of silly Johnny Cab, the animatronic taxi driver who still wants to chit-chat during a car chase.
Drive!
Would you please repeat the destination?
Oh, anywhere, just go! Go!
I'm not familiar with that address. Would you please repeat the destination?
And the fact that the Martian mutations have, of course, produced beautiful three-breasted women that work in the seedier side of the colony. It's just enough to keep things light amongst all the bullets and death. Now, speaking of women, we of course have the great Sharon Stone here pretty much auditioning for Basic Instinct, being as gorgeous as she is, conniving and lethal, and also Rachel Ticotin as Arnie's love interest on Mars, a rebel badass who has a bone to pick with our hero, or at least the previous version of him.
This is too weird.
And he dumped me on Earth with a wife and that lousy job.
Did you say wife?
You know, she wasn't really my wife.
Oh, she isn't really your wife. How stupid of me. She was Hauser's wife?
Look, forget that I said
No,
wife.
let's just forget everything.
Now, in the 1990s summer dominated by Pretty Woman, Ghost and Ninja Turtles, Total Recall was still in the top 10 highest grossing films of the year, which is quite hard to imagine in a hard R-rated movie doing that these days, but such was the power of Schwarzenegger's name above the title, and these were the days when movie stars still sold movies and not CGI money shots in trailers. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger would star in Kindergarten Cop in the December of the same year as this, although it wouldn't go on general release until 1991, the same year as his box office juggernaut Terminator sequel. So yeah, he was about as big a star as you could possibly be. Now, Total Recall is a top 5 Schwarzenegger movie for me personally. It's simple enough to enjoy for its gory thrills and sci-fi spectacle, but also surprisingly cerebral if you want to scratch below the surface and explore some of the theories around its plot. Its cast is stacked with late 80s, early 90s gems, and it has some bombastic Jerry Goldsmith music, and not a moment of its hour and 50-minute runtime is squandered on anything but good old propulsive 90s action. Go check it out.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is.